Engines were once built to last 300,000 miles. Yet today, they are lucky to reach 100,000 before catastrophic failure. The reason? Most owners still trust the lifetime fluid myth, and they skip 8 key steps that could make their engine run like new. Miss just one, and you risk dangerous pressure buildup, fuel starvation, or a carbon-choked heart. But which overlooked fix could save your car from an early grave? A $15 plastic valve buried in the engine bay can decide whether your car lives or dies. The positive crankcase ventilation valve, known as the PCV valve, is supposed to vent pressure from inside the engine, but most owners forget it exists. As oil vapors and combustion gases flow through, the valve collects sludge and carbon. After years of neglect, it clogs solid. Pressure inside the crankcase starts to rise. Gaskets that were designed to hold back a gentle vacuum now face a relentless push from within. Oil seeps past seals, leaving dark stains on driveways. Some engines lose a quart every 1,000 miles, and the leaks only get worse. There is a simple way to know if your PCV valve is on borrowed time. Pull it out and shake it. If you hear a rattle, the internal pintle is free and working. If it is silent, it is stuck. Replace it immediately. No special tools, no trip to the mechanic. A new valve costs less than a tank of gas and takes 5 minutes to install. Skip this step and you risk blowing out every gasket in the engine. The fix is so cheap it feels like cheating, but it is how high mileage engines make it past 200,000 miles without major repairs. Pressure is not the only silent killer under the hood. Flow matters just as much. On older vehicles, the external fuel filter is a small metal canister tucked along the frame rail. Over time, it fills with microscopic grit and rust from the tank. At idle, the engine seems fine, but when you step on the gas to pass a truck, the car hesitates. The fuel pump is fighting a losing battle, pushing against a wall of resistance. It runs hotter, drawing more current, and wears itself out years ahead of schedule. The difference between a $20 filter swap every 30,000 miles and a $700 fuel pump replacement is just a few minutes with a wrench. Every owner who ignores this lesson ends up stranded, waiting for a tow. Simple maintenance, pressure released and flow restored, keeps engines running like new, long after the warranty is a distant memory. A modern engine is only as good as its ability to breathe. Under the hood, 2 overlooked parts control every drop of air that enters the cylinders: the mass airflow sensor and the throttle body. When either one gets dirty, the results show up instantly in how the car drives: gutless acceleration, sluggish throttle, and a rough idle that feels like the engine is fighting itself. The mass airflow sensor, or MAF, sits just downstream of the air filter. Its job is to measure the exact volume of air entering the engine using a thin wire heated by electricity. As air flows past, the wire cools, and the sensor sends a signal to the engine computer to adjust fuel delivery. But over time, microscopic dust and oil coat the wire, creating an invisible blanket that throws off the reading. The engine computer can't see the real air volume, so it underfuels the mixture. The car feels flat, fuel economy drops, and yet there is no check engine light, just a slow fade in performance that most owners blame on old age. A 10-minute fix can bring it back. Spray the MAF wire with dedicated MAF cleaner and never touch or scrub the wire. Once the residue melts away, the sensor regains its accuracy and throttle response snaps back to life. Next is the throttle body, the gatekeeper of idle airflow. Every time the engine idles or coasts, a thin ring of black carbon builds up around the butterfly valve. This sticky deposit chokes off air, making the engine stumble at stoplights or surge when you tap the gas. Pop off the intake hose and shine a light inside. If you see a dark ring, the fix is simple. Use throttle body cleaner and a lint-free cloth to wipe away the grime until the metal shines. Instantly, idle smooths out and the engine breathes freely again. These two cleanse, one for the sensor, one for the throttle, restore airflow where it matters most. It's the difference between an engine that feels tired and one that responds like it just rolled off the assembly line. Every ignition starts with a spark, but few drivers realize how much can be lost when that spark weakens. Over time, the metal tips of spark plugs erode with every fire, their gap widening by fractions of a millimeter. It is a slow drift, barely noticeable at first. But as the gap grows, the ignition coil must work harder, pushing more voltage to bridge the distance. This extra strain can quietly shave years off coil life and transform a crisp ignition into a soft, stumbling misfire. The engine might still start and run, but it is no longer at its best. Power slips away, sometimes as much as 10 horsepower, while fuel economy drops and acceleration feels muted. A set of new plugs, installed every 60,000 to 90,000 miles, can bring back lost power and relieve the coils before they fail. For less than the cost of a dinner out, the engine regains its edge and the risk of a sudden misfire or breakdown fades. But ignition is only half the story. Deep in the exhaust stream, the upstream oxygen sensor acts as the engine's eyes, measuring how well fuel is burning. As the miles add up, the sensor surface becomes coated and its response slows. The engine control unit, no longer getting accurate readings, defaults to a richer fuel mixture. The result? Smooth driving, but with a hidden drain on the wallet. $400 a year in wasted gasoline for a car that is still running fine. Most owners never notice until a mechanic points out the sensor's sluggish readings or a failed emissions test forces the issue. Replacing the upstream oxygen sensor at around 120,000 miles restores feedback precision and trims fuel costs for the rest of the car's life. These failures share a common thread: the myth of lifetime components. Marketing promises of 100,000-mile spark plugs and forever transmission fluid have convinced drivers that engines no longer need attention. But the evidence is everywhere: faded power, rising fuel bills, and expensive repairs that could have been avoided. Routine service is not optional. It is the difference between an engine that coasts into old age and one that dies young, dragged down by neglected basics. Fuel injectors operate in a world of extremes: heat, pressure, and microscopic tolerances. After every drive, the injector tips stay hot, baking a thin layer of varnish onto their nozzles. That residue distorts the spray from a fine mist into uneven streams, leaving pockets of unburned fuel and robbing the engine of smoothness. The fix does not require a mechanic or a lift. Polyethyramine, called PEA, is a chemical cleaner found in brands like Techron and Redline. Add it to the tank, and within 2 fill-ups, it strips away the varnish, restoring the spray pattern and bringing back lost power. For less than the price of lunch, combustion becomes crisp again. No injector removal, no special tools. But even perfect atomization cannot overcome a more insidious problem lurking in modern engines: carbon buildup on intake valves. Gasoline direct injection, known as GDI, changed the rules. Instead of washing over intake valves, fuel is injected straight into the chamber, so nothing cleans the valves as oil vapors and soot build up layer by layer. By 60,000 miles, it is common to see a 20% drop in airflow, enough to choke acceleration and trigger rough idle. Chemical cleaners will not touch this hardened carbon. The only real solution is walnut blasting, a procedure where technicians use pulverized walnut shells to scour the valves clean. The process restores airflow and performance to factory levels, erasing years of buildup in under an hour. It is the difference between a car that wheezes up a hill and one that pulls like new. Hidden threats are not just chemical. Stray electrical currents can eat away at metal from the inside, a process called electrolysis. Corroded coolant passages and pitted aluminum are the silent warning signs. A quick check with a multimeter, probe the coolant and ground, and look for more than 0.3 volts, can catch this before it destroys a head gasket. Another 5-minute test is measuring voltage drop across battery cables while cranking. Anything above half a volt means resistance is lurking, quietly starving the starter and ignition of power. These quick checks cost nothing but can save thousands, revealing the invisible killers that sabotage even the best maintained engines. When chemical, mechanical, and electrical threats are all addressed, the result is not just a longer-lasting engine, it is performance and reliability restored to the day it left the factory. Right now, over 70% of vehicles on the road will suffer avoidable engine failure before 150,000 miles, all for lack of simple maintenance. The difference is not high-tech upgrades, it is action, not neglect. Your engine's future is built in the choices you make today. Let me know your thoughts below.